Hi, I'm Dr. D,
And I'm Princess Gaia.
and we are so lucky to have with us today Missy Denard. Missy, we are dying to hear your story. So without further ado, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your story.
Okay, I'm Missy Denard. I'm the Executive Director for New Beginnings Big Country. We're a women's transitional ministry here in Abilene. This is really exciting because this has been our 10th year since I started New Beginnings, and with the pandemic going on, it's been a little different. We're not going to be able to have our fundraiser luncheon where the women can speak, so I appreciate getting to share today. Exciting. So about 18 years ago, I started jail ministry here at the Taylor County Jail, just ministering weekly Bible studies to the women, one-on-one mentoring, and I started seeing a pattern of the women. They would get out, they would come back to jail, the same women. And so I'm like, okay, I know that I'm supposed to be here at the jail, but what more can I do to help these women when they get out? Not really understanding anything about what that meant. I just honestly cried out to the Lord and said, I know you have me here, but what more can I do? And in that moment, I had a vision of the house, really still not knowing what that meant. But I'm like, okay, Lord, you want me to have a house? I don't know what this means. But so for 6 years, I just kept praying and kept asking for direction and wisdom on what can I do? How do I even go about getting a house? And I checked into some different things here and realized that they really had nothing that was faith-based in Abilene. And so I just continued to, seek direction. And another lady had came in, and she had done the transitional housing before. And so I'm like, well, this is perfect. She can live with the women, and she can take care of it. And that was all sounding great, but, it's what he wanted me to do. And so anyway, we opened our first house. Really didn't know how it was going to work. I just talked to the owner and said, I really don't know anything about this, but this is my heart. I just want to help these women, and I'll make it right with you. Will you work with us on the time frame of the rent? And he said, absolutely. And so, the amazing thing is it was really by faith. I mean, my husband and I didn't have the finances to be able to fund an endeavor like this. And so the amazing thing is that when I took that step of faith, two different people that really didn't know anything I was doing said, the Lord put it on my heart to give you this amount of money and this amount of money, and it's exactly what we needed to get everything turned on and get set up in this house. So from the beginning, it started like that. And, we moved in with 3 women, 3 blow-up mattresses, and the owner left the recliner chair in there, so that's really all we had. And then everything has started coming together from different people, just donating furniture, and so that's really how we started, New Beginnings. I have learned a lot, and I'm still learning a lot, and how to do things. I started with not making them pay rent or put anything into it. I was doing everything, and I realized quickly that they needed to give something back. They needed to have, I don't want to say ownership, but they needed to be able to feel like they're doing something. Because a lot of the women, they've never been taught how to pay bills, how to be responsible. Sometimes there's a crutch, they're given everything, and so they tend to, expect it. But what I started seeing when I started, of course, we started with lots of rules, and we add to them, I think, every year or day sometimes. But it started growing from there. We had 3 women come, and then it just started more and more women, really word of mouth got out, and I just started seeing the need that we had a lot of women needing help, which this house was a 2-bedroom, and it was doing great for what we were needing it for. I'd taken the women on a walk to Emmaus, and we'd been there about a year, and one of the women roomed with another lady that said, I have a house that would be perfect for what you're doing. It's a 6-bedroom, 3-bath, and which, sometimes I'm a little hard-headed, I guess you could say, but she was like, it would be perfect. And yeah, it'd be perfect, but that's $1,500 extra more a month, and all the utilities, and, we don't have the finances coming in, and there's no way I can do that. And anyway, come to January, and she said, we've got to make a decision. We have some college girls living here, and we'd really like it to be used for ministry. And so I said, well, I'll see, pray about it. That was on a Monday. Well, Friday, a local pastor called me and said, hey, I have this lady here, and she's very broken and very wounded, and you came to my mind. Can you help her? And at that time, I had 6 women living in a 2-bedroom house. I had 2 women living on the couches. That's just all the room we had, and I had no room anywhere. I was able to get her help. She needed to go into a more a different place than what we had. She was really, really abused. And so I started, okay, Lord, I see the need here, so is this what you're wanting me to do? Do you want me to do this house? So I started praying about it, really started praying about it, and then I talked to my husband, and he said, well, I thought you wasn't going to do this. And I'm like, well, but now I feel like God's kind of stirring something inside of me that I'm supposed to do this. And so we went to the house, and he had to really give me vision because I had boys, and so I wasn't used to girls and how they can be a little messy sometimes, but it was really messy. So anyway, but it was, I just felt like, you know what, this is what we're supposed to do, but my insides were still, and I was still a nervous wreck. And, you know, while I was teaching my classes at the jail, I'd tell the women, you know, I'm thinking about doing this. I didn't tell them any details about the house, nothing. So in one of my Monday night classes, one of the girls was in there, and then on Wednesday night, she's like waving at me through the deal. I was like, Miss Missy, I need to talk to you. So she said, number one, I was really listening in class Monday night, but I got to tell you, the girls told me I think I had some type of a vision. She said that, maybe you can tell me what it means. And so she started telling me that there was this wooden deck, and so she was sitting here, and she had a kid over here, and their feet were in the water, and there was a big wooden fence all the way around, then back over here with some double windows, and she said, and then you walked up. What does that mean? And, I mean, there was no way for her to know that that's the house. You know, God just filled me with peace in that moment, just saying, hey, I've got this. This is the way I want you to go. And so, anyway, we had our first annual fundraiser luncheon, raised the money for the deposit and the first month's rent, and that was in 2012. And great news on that house, we just had 2 donations this year, and so the house is totally paid for now. As we continue, and we've continued to grow, and every house that I've not just gone looking for houses, I would pray about them. And then we had another door open that we had a little complex. So the lady that we had, she was able to get her 2 boys back, which she was able to do with that apartment. We had another lady that had a baby, and so we had this driveway. And so it caught on fire one May, and I'd taken summer and boys to a camp in Eastland to lay there, and while we were gone, the electricity wasn't happening anyway. It caught on fire, and so of course we lost that place, and we were just praying about what to do. And so we had a couple of large donations to be able to help us get another house. So we found another house, and well, we looked at quite a few different houses. And so the realtor said, the last house we looked at, she said, you don't want this house because it's a foreclosure, it can get some paperwork, and it needed some work, because we have about $50,000, and that's not a lot of money for something really big, good house. So as we prayed over the weekend, the more I prayed about it, I felt like we were supposed to get that house. And so Monday morning, a lady out of the blue called me. She was from this, it's called Wagner Apartment Homes and Services, and said, hey, I know it's in the last minute, but we like to do projects in the community, nonprofits, and is there anything that you need? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like cleanup? And she said, well, anything like remodeling. And I said, really? Remodeling? Like a lot of remodeling? And she said, yes. We just want to help. We have a team of people that come in. And I said, well, this needs a lot of work. Are y'all sure? And she said, oh, absolutely. Sign us up. And I'm like, okay. So, that was just a little God thing to me. And I called the realtor, and so we started all the paperwork and everything. And we named this house Faith House. And the reason it was called Faith House is because it took it every step of the way. Some bank in New York or somewhere owned this house, and so it was a lot of paperwork. And the only key is we had to have it in New Beginning's name before the people came, and they were supposed to be there November 1st. And so it gets like right to the wire. Like the realtors calling me and saying, you need to tell your people. They'd already been to order all everything they needed, the lumber and everything that they needed for the house to do all the remodeling and fixing it up. And so she said, you're going to have to tell them they can't get work done. And I'm like, okay. And no, I think this was right before Thanksgiving anyway. But so I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't call the people, call it off, because I just really believed that God was going to make a way. Well, it got like the day before, they were going to be there the next morning at 8 o'clock, and so they were calling the realtor, and she said, well, you just need to get it figured out, because she has her people praying, and it has to happen. And so, anyway, 5:30 the night before, we went to the FedEx and signed the papers, and so they was able to start the next morning. So that house got a really good name, Faith House, because it every step of the way, I could have given up and said, oh, well, it's just too much trouble, but I knew that's what God had opened the door for us to do. And since the Faith House, Summer, one of the women that it's been 8 years since she really first came to New Beginnings, and so she was able to get her boys back and her husband back, and so we're able to let her husband and her boys buy that house at the beginning. So that's really been amazing that God just opened that door. They needed somewhere safe and a good home that has some neighbors that wasn't too great, so I just felt like it was the door for us to be able to offer it to her and her family. And she still helps give back at the beginning. So we have the Grace House next. We had, everything was going good, and I had the neck surgery, my second neck surgery, and one of the ladies that had been in the program before came to visit with a volunteer and said, I have this house, and the lady's supposed to be moving out, and, y'all are interested in it. Well, I don't know. And so I just started praying about it, and it just opened up, and so we were able to get that house 3 years ago, and that's the only house we're renting. Every other house we're able to, the owner is financing at the apartments, and then we have a mortgage with the bank, and then that other house. It's really been phenomenal to see all the things that's happened. We've had over 900 women to come through New Beginnings in 10 years, and I believe that every lady that has came left with something they didn't have. Sometimes it might look like they left for their time, but seeds were planted in them, and they'll never forget the time that they had in the beginning. We have a team of volunteers that work very closely with us. We have one-on-one mentoring. We have one-on-one counseling. We have the women that have been through the program that come back to volunteer their time to be mentors for the women. We have house moms at each of the houses. We have house directors, and that's the women that have been through the program and that they still just want to give back to be able to help the women walk in freedom that they're able to walk in now. And the restoration that we've been able to see in 10 years has just been over the top, really. Things that look impossible. One last year, one of the girls got out of prison, went to the halfway house, came to us. Her daughter was with her brother, and she never thought it was possible to get her back. And within 6 months, we have her in an apartment, and she went to court, and she got her daughter back. And she's still with us, and Lily's a little next to us in the beginning. And it's been a real blessing to see that restoration, and that gives hope to the other women that are working to get them back. So that's kind of been all the house part of it. Another vision that I had in the beginning is years ago I had a vision of a resale boutique. I felt like I was supposed to buy this resale boutique, and it didn't happen. It was probably about 17 years ago. So I just kind of put that vision back and really didn't think much about it. I had a volunteer that was helping me, and I would share that vision with her. And so she was a feisty one out. She's like, well, what about this building? What about that building? And I'm like, it's got to be about God's timing. It can't be, I can't rush into it and do it in my own strength. That's obvious. And so she told me 2 locations. So I started driving around the location, praying at this location just every day. And then one day, I just heard this. It was like we're talking now. Now is the time. And so I felt like okay, now's the time we're supposed to open a store. And it's actually right across from Murray on 14th, so that's really a neat thing. So we opened the store. It's been over 3 years ago, or say 4 years ago. Then last year we expanded, and we have furniture now. But we're hoping our vision for the store. We have a lot of used clothes, but they're very high end. It's not like going to like a upscale store. It's more like a boutique. It's very nice and very. We want it to be different than any other. So we worked hard, shop hard to make it that way. But what the store does is it helps the women be able to come in. We have a lady that did 23 years in prison. We have one that just came that's been in prison 33 years. And so they've been locked up that much time, and they get out into the real world. It's very overwhelming. So we bring them to the store gradually. Margaret, one of our women that was 23 years, she actually works in the store 3 days a week, volunteers, and she does an amazing job with the customers. They just love her. She's very helpful and keeping everything the way it should be. And you know, it helps to build her confidence, knowing that hey, you know, just because I was in prison that long, that doesn't mean I can't adapt to the outside world. And so we're hoping to grow the store that we'll be able to pay the women. Right now, we're still getting it built up, you know, so that we can get to that place. And I know it will get there. It's just we're in the growing process of it now. But one of the women, too, she makes handmade jewelry, Aurelia, and she does an amazing job, too, with the jewelry and all the glittery fun stuff. She can make it all. And so some of the women can make some art pieces. And so, anyway, it's just been really good, and we're able to play with women in the store that come in, with people that come in. They're like, it's so peaceful in here, and it's so clean in here. And so we try to make it a different atmosphere so people can see something different in the resale world. So I think I went over everything. Let me know if I've left something out. I can't carry it and take it on personally. I have to say, Lord, you have to give me strength every day, and He does. I mean, He gives me strength that is beyond my understanding. Personal, especially when you see some of them leave, and you get really close to them, and then one day they're just gone, and it is heartbreaking. But I have to focus on the ones that are doing good and the ones that are still here. I mean, the first 3 women that I had to either kick out or left, it crushed me. It just crushed me, and I thought, oh my goodness, how can I do this? And so I kept trying to reach out to them, and the Lord spoke to me one day and said, stop trying to chase people that aren't ready to change and focus on the ones that are right in front of you. And I thought, that's exactly right. I still have women here that are wanting to change, and I've got to put that effort into pouring into them and helping them. But it's hard. There's hard days, yes. Seeing what I've seen with the women's lives that have changed, that are different, that they would have just gone back to the streets or gone back to the drug world, or, you know, seeing their lives changed and them walking in society, being successful and not having to look over their shoulder, it has really changed my life. You know, I never dreamed that it would grow from one house to 4 to apartments to a store to where we are today. I mean, I never envisioned that when I started, but just seeing what I've been able to see with the women, and it overwhelms me sometimes. And I think, you know, who am I to be able to be in this place? You know, that I feel honored that God would call me and choose me to be able to. My advice would be to take the vision that they have, you know, and don't get caught up in what other people are doing, but focus on what they feel is best fitting for them. Honestly, no. And I say that because I think everything that I've gone through, I needed to go through to be able to learn the things that I've learned to be where I'm at. Because had I taken shortcuts in some areas, I wouldn't have the experience of going through those things to be able to help the women further become successful.
Do you think that maybe starting New Beginnings in Abilene, you had any special advantages just because of the city of Abilene itself? Or maybe, I guess we could look broader even in Texas. Do you think there was anything that made it easier or harder because you started in Abilene?
I would say easier. Abilene is one of the most giving, loving communities that I've probably ever seen. It really still blows my mind how forgiving Abilene is, especially in the workforce for the women. Because a lot of them, there's not training, and so they take them in. Especially Chick-fil-A with Ryan LaCroix, he has been really, really good for our women. And we had one lady that had aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and he took her in there, and she was working on his cash register. She did a phenomenal job for him, and he is a good example for them too, what a Christian businessman looks like. That's a tough one, but ultimately, like on the weekends, it's like my family's time. So unless somebody's like dying or something's like really serious, they handle anything that happens on the weekends. And usually after 9 o'clock, unless it's something like an emergency, I don't just answer my phone, because I have 36 plus women on a daily basis that I hear from, and plus even women that have transitioned out. And so I have to keep it real balanced and have good boundaries. And sometimes I don't do so well, and sometimes, I have to get refocused. But it's hard to do because you want to help them so much. But I have to have time for my family too, and it is a hard balancing act. I actually did not write a business plan. I honestly went into it blindly, by faith, having no clue what I was doing. So I've kind of learned the business plan along the way, I guess you could say.
You've mentioned a lot about how faith has influenced your choices in the organization. But one of the questions I got asked by some of the students was, when you talk to God, do you feel like it's like you pray and then you get an answer, or do you feel like maybe you get messages almost spontaneously?
Well, sometimes it's different. Sometimes I have dreams and visions, and sometimes when I pray about something and ask for direction, somebody will just call me out of the blue and say, hey, I felt like it's been a lot of different ways, and sometimes it'll just be like a feeling, like knowing something, or maybe I know something's going on. I don't know exactly what it is, but like in 3 days, things will happen, and it'll all just kind of come to light. So I feel like he shows us in a lot of different ways. It's been, the coronavirus has been difficult for us because we are very hands-on and very, you don't realize how much you miss hugging somebody until you can't hug them, and how important that is for our women. And so we've been having the Zoom Bible study meetings, and so you just see the interactions not the same, and so we have to go extra lengths to be able to reach out to the women to make sure, because it's been really hard on them, like almost like isolation, even though they're able to go to work, but they go to work and come home, and we've kind of not been letting them interact with each other. The houses, we kind of gradually started that again, but just trying to be careful because they all work in different fields, and we don't, if one got it, then it could spread easily. So we've just been trying to, do things a little bit differently. It's been tough. It really has. I will say that. But we just try to, keep going and keep doing what we know to do to be able to help the women. We have a website, New Beginnings Big Country, and then, of course, my phone number's everywhere. They could call me, email me, newbeginningsabilene.com. So, however, of course, a lot of people say I'm hard to get a hold of when they try to call me, but I try to check my messages more often and get back to things. So, but yeah, our website is a good way. And there's a copy of our book in the store. If somebody wanted to, see the book in the store, they can pick a copy up there or order it online at our website.
So, Missy, do you have any message for young entrepreneurs out there?
I would just encourage them to follow that vision that they have, and don't waver in what they know that they're supposed to do. You know, don't let any influence from outside. Of course, good influence, but you know, investigate different scenarios of the situation, whatever they're wanting to do, but to not give up, to just really push through the obstacles that come, because there will be obstacles, but to push through those so that they can be successful.